Diamonds are one of the most precious gems in the world, but there is a country that has been destroyed by these diamonds. We are talking about South Africa. Not just diamonds, South Africa is the world's largest producer of gold, chromium, manganese, and platinum, as well as the world's fifth largest producer of diamonds, but its people are still poor. If you Google South Africa, you will see such beautiful views. But this is just for show. South Africa is full of racism, inequality, poverty, unemployment, and all such problems from within. Let us first look at the history of South Africa. The history of South Africa is quite interesting because this country was colonized not only once but twice. Let's understand. The British were the colonizers. Other countries in Europe were also colonizers like Spain, French, and the Portuguese. All these countries would capture another country, plunder its natural resources, and then leave it to fend for itself. This formula was invented by all of Europe and dominated by Great Britain, but the wounds of colonization still hurt the whole world. South Africa is a living example of this. In the 17th century, Dutch ships sailed from Netherlands to South Africa. Their goal was to reach India. This company was called the Dutch East India Company. One of their ships was wrecked off the coast of South Africa. Its sailors had no choice but to farm in South Africa. After some time, those sailors were rescued. Those sailors said that India is difficult to find, but South Africa is a good relaxing spot. There is a lot of land here that can be cultivated. Employees of the Dutch East India Company started farming in the lands of South Africa. They also established a trading outpost in the Cape Town area so they could trade with passing ships. Former employees of the Dutch East India Company settled in South Africa after retirement. They were called free burghers. Free burghers mean free citizens. This was the first colonization of South Africa. Now we come to the second colonization. The British occupied South Africa in 1806. It was not only African tribes but also free burghers who resisted. The British fought several wars against the local tribes and the Dutch, later gaining control of the entire southern African region. South Africa was then known as the Cape Colony, but in 1867 diamonds were discovered there and the country's fortunes changed. There was a revolution in South Africa, also known as the Mineral Revolution, and that Mineral Revolution transformed South Africa from an agrarian tribal region to an industrialized country. They needed strong and powerful slaves to work in the mines. When diamonds were found for the first time in a town named Kimberley, prospectors started arriving in droves. Everyone wanted to try their luck. People had to dig deeper, and digging deeper required steam-powered machines and more advanced machines which were not available to normal workers. At that time, South Africa's mining industry was controlled by a few corporations. Whoever had money bought big machinery and started dominating the mining industry. Have you heard of the name De Beers? De Beers bought all the mines in the Kimberley region. In fact, when De Beers founder Cecil Rhodes died in 1902, De Beers controlled 90% of the world's diamond supply. The company would pay workers very low wages to increase their profits. De Beers began to feel that their employees were smuggling diamonds into the black market, so they started strip clubs. In these strip clubs, employees were stripped and searched to see if they had stolen diamonds. Basically, since then, the discrimination has started. At the same time, the number of workers working in those mines increased, and thus the demand for infrastructure and food also increased. But some of the mines were built on people's farms, and mining companies bought a lot of farms, so there was a shortage of food. To solve the food shortage, various capitalists started buying farms and began to commercialize agriculture. Farmers began to grow cash crops such as sugarcane, coffee, tobacco, and cotton. During this period, local residents had conflicts with the British, after which the British began to bring their laws to the Cape Colony. Finally, after many protests, South Africa became the Union of South Africa in 1910. After this, the Natives Act of 1913 was passed, which declared that the local black population could not own land. Segregation was duly legalized in 1948. People were divided into three categories: white, black, and Indian. Whites had all the rights, they owned most of the properties, lived in good places, and got all the facilities. Due to racial segregation, whites and non-whites were treated differently. Whites lived in luxury areas and non-whites in slums. Many international sanctions were imposed on South Africa to end this apartheid. And finally, in 1994, they removed all apartheid laws. After the end of apartheid in 1994, the African National Congress Party came to power. People thought this party would change everything. People with whom inequality happened will now get justice. society will eventually become more equal. Today's South Africa is just like a diamond, but this diamond does not shine. Because South Africa is as segregated today as it was in the past. Their unemployment rate is around 33%, and the youth unemployment rate is around 60%. Crime is so rampant in the countryside that every house has an electric fence. It is impossible to live without it. South Africa has 12 hours of blackouts, and it is getting worse, especially in rural areas. The demand for electricity is high, and the supply is very low. At the same time, due to high crime and thefts at power stations, their money goes in fixing and compensation of the deficit. Nelson Mandela is considered a hero in South Africa. He fought against apartheid, but today his party, the ANC, is corrupt. South Africa spends 5% of its budget on economic infrastructure, 5% on police, 13% on basic education, and 17% on various subsidies, child benefits, and social security, but the results are not visible. This means that corrupt politicians are involved in embezzlement. All the problems in South Africa are like a maze. If you want to reduce poverty in a country, people must get basic services, clean drinking water, quality education, and an uninterrupted power supply so that people can upgrade their skills or start their own businesses. But South Africa experiences 12 hours of blackouts that prevent businesses from operating properly. The unemployment rate in the country is high. Crime is also high due to high unemployment. Tragically, many of these problems were preventable. According to a government report, South Africa's electricity demand was growing, but they had a surplus of electricity until 2007, after which they should have increased electricity production. But because there was no competition in the electricity sector, decisions were not made in time. And earlier, this country used to sell excess electricity to other countries, but now it is suffering from blackouts. South Africa is one of the most unequal countries in the world. The Gini coefficient measures inequality in society. South Africa's Gini coefficient has been 0.67. For context, the American coefficient is 0.47. A value of 0 means a very equal society, and a value of 1 means a very unequal society. This means that South Africa is a very unequal society. Thanks for watching this video till the end. If you liked this video, hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this.